Venter, thank you so much for joining us to chat about DevConf 2023.
Hi, yeah, it's a pleasure.
We are very excited to have you. I met you last year, this time, actually, for the very first time, at, I think we sat next to each other at the Cape Town Speakers Dinner. It was a very fun night. It's a bit loud and rowdy for the people around us, but very fun.
I remember I had to sign an indemnity form for the cake that I wanted to take home. I don't know if you remember that.
I do remember that. I do remember it. The most dangerous cake on earth, in fact, clearly. So we're very lucky to have you, and we've got some incredible talks this year. Tell us what should people be coming to your talk to hear? What is going to make your talk different from everyone else's talk this year at DevConf?
So that's going to depend very much on what time you ask me. If you ask me a bit closer to the talk, I might give you a different answer. So for me, what I'm specifically talking about, kind of the intersection between the tech world and mental health. So I've actually started doing an actual podcast with a good friend of mine, also called Schalk. And both of us, have we've been walking a very long journey now with mental health. He as well, he also has a history of substance abuse and stuff. And I think we started the like kind of talking to people in the hopes that what would happen is as people share their stories, like that would be kind of like a basis for a bit of like solidarity. And, you feel like I'm not the only one struggling with this. And I think what started happening is the more we spoke to people, the more we realized that actually there's like this entire world of things that people are just too scared to talk about for various reasons. So I kind of did what any person who takes things seriously and then later hates themselves for taking things seriously does. And I said like, hey, I need to go talk about this like on a public stage. Yeah, so maybe ask me again after the talk how I feel about it. But so my goal is that I feel there's all these things that like we are really avoiding and not talking about on both sides, from the managerial side and the hiring side, and also the actual employees and the people who like suffer from like mental conditions and so forth that people just don't want to talk about. And so what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to kind of just take some time and make a space where we like deliberately, we're all in this room now, let's talk about this, let's try and make sense of this. Yeah.
It sounds like it's going to be a really great talk. Last year, you obviously had enough fun that you wanted to come back. Why DevConf? What are you hoping is going to be the same this year? What are you hoping is going to be different this year?
Yeah, I think so. So what's interesting is that was kind of just after COVID, kind of when COVID was kind of clearing up and so forth. I remember on the plane up to Joburg, like that was the first time I was on a plane where we didn't have to actually put masks on. And I think coming out of the experience of COVID into that gave me like a really like appreciation for the actual type of things that you get from an in-person event like this. Because up until then, I've attended a lot of events. I've actually spoken at a lot of events that were completely remote. And there was kind of like this almost camaraderie and kind of just this exchange of ideas that you get when you don't have that level of control over, okay, I'm just going to turn off the stream now, I'm going to make a sandwich or whatever. You kind of get exposed to a lot of things that you wouldn't get exposed to normally, just because you're in that environment and this talk is happening now and you're going to sit in this talk and you actually discover a lot of stuff that's really interesting that you wouldn't have engaged with previously. So I think that is kind of what really drew me back, not specifically only DevConf, but just like in-person conferences in general, post-COVID, yeah.
There was an intense relief almost last year. I remember seeing, everybody was just so absolutely delighted to see each other again. And it was such a great feeling. And yeah, I must say for me personally, I really hope that carries through this year. This is a great community. And I know that there's a lot of people that are friends. And I mean, we sold out, this conference was sold out basically in January. So it was incredible to have such a quick sellout of tickets. And in fact, we've had to add tickets in Cape Town where we're lucky enough to do it. So I'm hoping for that same sense of just camaraderie and absolute love and excitement to see each other again in Cape Town. So
100%.
as a returning speaker, What advice would you give to new speakers? Because we've got quite a good crop of new speakers this year.
If I were to give feedback to myself, I don't know how applicable that would be to other speakers, because I don't kind of know what your context is and so forth. But if I were to give like advice to myself, maybe a year ago, maybe even before that, is don't be scared of criticism. See it as, if you care about the topic that you're speaking about, see criticism as something that's helpful, that helps you actually understand that topic better, like kind of helps you polish and like share the rough edges of your own understanding of the topic. Because last year there was kind of that anonymous feedback form, and like it hits you hard, specifically if it's something that you care about. And some of the stuff was I really enjoyed. Some of it was like, oh, he spent too much time talking about his family, which if you're the guy who wrote that and you're listening to this, shout out to you. Like, I appreciate that hustle. Like, I'm here to learn about tech. I don't want to hear about your personal life. I want that talk to start from second one. Let's talk about the tech. I don't want to hear about your family. So, but like some of the other things were things around like, oh, he misunderstood this, or, he completely misrepresented this. And initially it kind of hits hard because we're all we want some type of validation and we want to know that we're doing okay. But like, I think after I gave that some time to pass, I really saw actually the value. There's a lot of value in putting an idea out there and then having people react to that and using that reaction as, hey, here's some blind spots about this topic that I haven't considered before. Granted, this is if you really care about the topic. If you're just there because, hey, I want to make a profile for myself, I want to advance the Schalk brand or whatever, that's a different discussion. But for me, generally, I really care about the topics I speak about. So that really gives me an opportunity to really develop and refine my own understanding of it, which is actually a great thing. And I do think that is the thing that trips people up the most. They're so scared of getting bad feedback. People saying like, oh no, he completely misunderstood the topic. This was the worst talk I've ever been to. But that in itself is good, is something that's good to know if you care about the topic. Yeah.
I think also seeing that in tandem with watching the videos, because DevConf obviously records everything and they're made available online afterwards. So you can go back and look at the feedback and look at your video and go, was that a real feedback, or was that just ego there? Or do I need to maybe redo that? So
and I also want to say that like people tend to be much more, I don't want to use the word forgiving, but like people are much more willing to meet you halfway. I think most people understand talking about something, coming up on a public stage and sharing something is a scary thing. It's a big thing. And like a lot of people appreciate that. And it feels like we are much harder on ourselves than like a lot of the audience actually is. Yeah, but also like my talk is about mental health. So obviously this is very topical to my talk. I don't know, maybe someone else is just like, I know everything about the topic I'm going to speak to. Like I am like big brain energy. Everyone's going to about to witness greatness. And, if that is you, like, oh man, like share your secrets with me.
So one last thing before we go, do you have a speaker that for you just, South African, international, that for you just brings it every time on the stage?
DevConf specific or just in general?
In general.
Okay, sure. I have a good friend, Alfie Alou. He spoke at several occasions. We've spoken together quite a bit. Last time I saw him speak was at UX South Africa. He does a lot of talking about mentorship and kind of the tech industry and so forth. Man, that guy is like, he is something else. I'll maybe send you a link, Philippa, that you can share with this. Check him out. Like, he does amazing work. I think like he does a lot of thinking on things that a lot of the tech industry isn't really grappling with. So it's always like so great to just hear him speak. And the guy has such a passion for the stuff he speaks about. Like, I really look to him. Like, I've actually told him I've stolen some ideas from him where I'm like, oh man, that one's going in my next talk. So I highly like encourage everyone to check out his stuff. He does amazing work. Yeah.
That's awesome. Thank you for joining us. We will be seeing you on the stage at 10:30 in both Cape Town and Pretoria this year. And thank you so much.
Cool. Thanks so much, Philippa.